Hey, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. It's Monday, January 25th, and we are about 7 days away from the Del Rey at the El Rey. Going to turn 50 years old next Tuesday. If you live in Los Angeles or if you live anywhere, get yourself a flight, hotel, and ticket and head out to this ripper. Joe Rogan, Bill Burr, Chris D'Elia, myself, Red Band, and Joe Bartnick are hitting the El Rey Theater, do some comedy, and then we'll take a break and then bring out some rock and roll. I'm going to do a full tribute to Bon Scott of AC/DC with all kinds of incredible players like Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses fame. Mark Ford, just added Mark Ford from Black Crowes. Josh Z. Let's see here. Billy Rowe from Jet Boy. Dave Lombardo from Slayer. Chris Goss, the god himself of the desert from Masters of Reality. Who else we got? Dave Kushner from Velvet Revolver and F is for Family, Music Man. What else? Who else? Man, Rudy Sarzo, Blasco. Two amazing bass players, both played with Ozzy. They'll be there playing. And some secret guests. Get your tickets at goldenvoice.com. It's next Tuesday, February 2nd at the El Rey. Do not miss it. Let's get into the episode right here. What a day I had. I actually just recorded this episode like 2 hours ago. I was going to put another episode out, but I really wanted to put this out today. I had so much fun. I'll explain this guest. His name is Magnus Walker. And if you don't know who he is, it doesn't matter. You're going to want to listen to this episode because I think I met my British brother, my twin brother. It's funny, once in a while, especially early on in like school, the way you bond with someone, like, you know, you're young and you're kind of fucking, I need friends. Ugh. Like say you go to junior high, your first year. I remember it was junior high. And you're just trying to bond with people. And the way I bonded with people was over music. And those are usually friends that you have your entire life. When you meet somebody that's totally into something you're into, like whatever it is, music, maybe you like to macrame or weave or whatever. Maybe you're into sports, or a lot of people bond over sports, or you're into whatever, drugs, whatever. You bond with somebody in school and you're like, this is my crew. And that was me with music. And when I about a year ago saw this guy's YouTube video, I was running down that late night YouTube rabbit hole of just surfing around, and I see this 32-minute movie on this guy, and I click play. It says Magnus Walker, Urban Outlaw. I'm like, Urban Outlaw? Cool fucking name. I like anything that's outlaw, of course. Who doesn't? And in 32 minutes, I realized I got to fucking meet that guy. He is a Porsche fanatic. I love Porsches myself. I love cars, motorcycles. He is a rock and roll fanatic. He also made rock and roll clothing for a long time. He's everything I love. I mean, he's the trifecta. He's rock, clothing, and cars. I mean, the only other thing that would have made it over the top, like smash in the face, would have been motorcycles. And I usually do the podcast at my place, but I really wanted to go to his place. And once you watch his YouTube video, Urban Outlaw, Magnus Walker, you're going to realize why I wanted to go to his place. It is a compound a dream compound. And I rarely look at stuff and go, wow, I wish I had this. Never really happens to me. I'm happy. I don't really care about other things. I love everything I got and everything I do. But once in a while, you'll run into somebody that has something like his compound, and you're like, this is it. This is fucking it right here. If you win the Powerball, it's not, some castle in Spain to me. It's a massive warehouse and loft space downtown. Doesn't get any grittier and real. Talk about soul. I wanted to move downtown when I first had to move, and it's just completely out of the price range, and parking's funky. It's got all these shitty loopholes because the amount of money I would have been spending, which let's say is like $1,500, you just don't get anything. You don't get anything. $1,500 and live around junkies and crackheads and crazy fucking crime and stuff. You have to go 4 or 5 levels above, and then you're living in the downtown that you see in all the movies. That kind of fucking crazy space where you see a guy pull a car into a flat, one of those elevators, and then the elevator goes up 4 floors, and he drives a car into a massive fucking loft that's thousands of square feet. He just parks his car, and then you see just like a movie screen on the wall and fucking badass like steel, ultra modern like Giger style furniture. And then a view of all just glass windows looking down on fucking downtown and those water fucking concrete rivers. That shit is badass. And that's why I wanted to go to Magnus Walker's place today. His collection of cars will make your fucking eyes pop out of your head. And his passion and his love and his love of life. So yeah, man, this was a great episode, and I hope you enjoy it. And I know I got a new friend, and I want to thank Rockabilly J for hooking this up. My boy Rockabilly J, I've known for years from West Coast Choppers, and he was on this podcast a couple years ago, and now he's over at Rolling Sands. Shout out to Rockabilly J for hooking this up, and Magnus Walker, I'm sure we will be friends for years. And any new people listening to this because of Magnus, welcome. Thank you. And keep the candles lit, everyone. See you at the birthday bash next Tuesday. Del Rey at the El Rey. And also shout out to Steve Agee. I was on his podcast today. Give it a listen. Steve Agee, on iTunes. Steve Agee and I went to the NAMM show. And I'll talk about the NAMM show another time, because this one's really about Magnus and cars and rock. Thanks, guys. Candles lit.
Keeping it real.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, keeping it real. Here we are, Let There Be Talk, brand new episode. Great guest today.
I like that.
You got to have the mic up on your face.
I like that. Let There Be Talk. That's pretty cool.
Right? I was trying to figure out a name. It was either For Those About to Talk or Let There Be Talk.
You're obviously like an AC/DC fan, I'm sensing right here, right?
You think?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. I got Bon Scott tattooed on my side.
Oh, you do? That's pretty killer.
Yeah, it's insane.
First time I saw AC/DC was 1984. Monsters of Rock, Donington Park, England.
Yeah, was Van Halen on that?
Yes, they were.
Yes.
And I tell this story all the time because, see that guitar over there?
Yeah.
My Black Les Paul, I got it autographed by Van Halen in 2004 when we did a shoot here with him.
Wow.
And I pulled out, I'd just gone back to England, and as a kid growing up, that was my era. New wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah, we're the same age.
Yeah, so I actually had brought back all these tour programs. I always used to buy programs. Yeah. And I had the 1984 Monsters of Rock program, and back then Van Halen was sort of like the biggest band in the world. They were just about to break big with Jump and all that stuff.
The huge record.
On that bill was AC/DC and Van Halen. So I had Eddie Van Halen sign that tour program 20 years after the fact, and he was sort of amazed that I'd kept it. And then he actually played that guitar over there. The whole band did, well, he played it, the band signed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up as a kid, I was a big AC/DC fan. I mean, still am. It's when I think back to that's going on now 32 years ago. It's pretty crazy how quick time flies.
I'm about to turn 50 next week, you know?
Well, that's a biggie, turning 50.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a tribute to Bon Scott at the El Rey Theater.
Well, that'd be cool. That's a great venue, the El Rey, too.
Yeah, I want you to come as my guest.
Yeah, I'd love to be
Joe
there.
Rogan, me, Bill Burr, Chris D'Elia, and then we're doing comedy, and then we're going to do a full Bon Scott tribute. We're doing the Highway to Hell record.
Oh, that'd be kill. I've seen a lot of good bands there. I saw Iggy Pop there, which was a pretty stellar show. I think the last time I actually saw AC/DC might have been the Meadowlands Arena in New Jersey, like probably 15 years ago now.
Wow.
But no matter where you see them, those guys just solid, performance. So I guess great name on the title of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah, that's pretty killer.
Great guest today. I got to introduce you, Magnus Walker. I'm super fired up to have you on because I like to go down these YouTube rabbit holes.
Oh, it's a slippery slope out there on YouTube.
It really is. And I definitely get obsessed with stuff I love. One of them being rock and roll, of course, and another one being cars, and another one being leathers. And
they all go together.
They all go together.
They all go together.
And here's
like sex, drugs, rock and roll.
That's it. And here's this guy. I'm watching this video. This guy sends me over because I'm thinking of shooting a documentary on my life. And the guy says, check this one out. It's kind of got a great look. And I watched this 32-minute video, and I'm immediately like, this guy's fucking like my twin brother. I mean, except for you got a lot more money, but
I don't know about that.
It's unbelievable, and I want to get into it because, of course, we could talk about the cars all day long, and that's what a lot of people talk to you about. But to me, it was really, you're from Sheffield, right?
Yeah, north of England, Steel City.
That's the land of Def Leppard.
Yeah, well, Sheffield's a music town. Going back before Def Leppard, it was the land of Joe Cocker.
Wow.
So, my story's pretty familiar. Growing up in Sheffield, late 70s, there was quite a thriving music scene there. I mean, it's still there today. It's gone through early 80s. Of course, Def Leppard was my team, my band of choice. But
yeah.
Sheffield also had all that new wave stuff, if you were into it. Human League, ABC, Cabaret Voltaire.
Wow.
So they had that whole sort of 80s new wave synth pop. And then in the 90s, they had the band Pulp. And then the latest, greatest sort of band from Sheffield is Arctic Monkeys.
Wow, great band.
So Sheffield's always, had a lot of musical acts come through it. Obviously, it gets overshadowed, of course, by Liverpool and Manchester.
Yeah.
But in essence, everyone sort of ends up in London and then, sort of migrates out of there. But growing up as a kid, Sheffield was and still is a musical city for sure.
It's basically the Detroit of Europe, right?
Yeah, well, that's how I describe it. Sheffield was the birthplace of steel in essence. We invented stainless steel. Benjamin Huntsman invented the crucible process of how you can refine, iron ore and basically turn it into stainless steel indirectly. So Sheffield was a steel town that grew up, in the 1700s and early 1800s. And that became the major industry in Sheffield. It was famous for cutlery on the specialty steel and cutlery for surgical tools and knives. But on a bigger scale, obviously, it supplied steel to the automotive industry, when that was thriving.
Yep.
But like all great northern cities, and Detroit's a great example, one of the first cities I came to when I came to America was Detroit. I recently revisited it last year for the first time in almost 30 years. And made a video there that I called Motor City Outlaw.
Wow.
And the similarities between Sheffield and Detroit are pretty parallel. They were both former industrial cities that, went through decay. Detroit in the 60s. A lot of people left Detroit in the 60s. Yeah. Sheffield had a declining steel industry, overseas imports and stuff like that. But I was just there over Christmas visiting my family for a week, and just a great trip back down memory lane. It doesn't matter. I always say it doesn't matter where you end up. Never forget where you came from.
Yeah, that's for real. Yeah.
And revisiting roots really keeps you grounded. So
yeah, it really does, man. I went.
Where are you from?
San Francisco,
okay.
Bay Area.
Well, it's nice up there.
It's beautiful. But I went to Sheffield in 2006.
What took you there?
I was working with the Rolling Stones.
Oh wow, there you go.
And an amazing thing. I've traveled around the entire world.
So you probably played the arena there.
They played.
That wasn't even there when I was there. I saw So many bands in Sheffield at the City Hall. You know, you go see Motorhead for £2.50, £3.
Yeah.
I mean, Saxon, UFO, Michael Schenker Group, Scorpions, Diamond Head. I mean, they all came through Sheffield. It's pretty incredible.
All that stuff. But my point is, whenever I travel, things hit me. So there I am in Sheffield, and of course, On Through the Night and High and Dry are two of my favorite records. You know, just unbelievable. You know, and there I am looking at Sheffield, and I'm like, how did this band get out of here? You know, it's so funny when you see where a band's from and then how big they are now,
right,
you know?
where they end up.
Because that place looked basically like Detroit to me. It was just a burned down.
Yeah, it's kind of a hillier version of Detroit, Sheffield.
Yeah.
You know, it's built on 7 hills. That way there's a lot of rivers going through it. That was how they were able to, you know, make a lot of steel water-powered and turn grind wheels and, you know, grind stuff into blades and cutlery and various stuff like that. But I always say where there's a will, there's a way. People find a way to do stuff to get out of places or to get to places. And,
I mean, those guys were like 15 and 16 when they were fucking writing that first record. You know?
should bring out the programs in a little bit. I'll show them to you. I got them right over there. I mean, it's...
I still got all my... I just moved a month ago. I lived under the Hollywood sign for years, and I had to move.
Well, that's an iconic place right there.
Yeah, it is, Beechwood Canyon. And I'm going through all my rock memorabilia. It really is just like my full-blown... All I really care about is like my rock memorabilia. When I look at it, people, they lose their minds. You know, they're like, look at this shit, dude. You still got it. Oh, there you go.
So I'm just stepping away into the corner. We're talking about Def Leppard.
Yeah, Pyromania.
There's Pyromania.
Yeah, look at that.
So my big band was Saxon. They were from Barnsley. So 1984 tour.
Dude, you don't have to tell me. I saw Saxon on the Denman Leather Tour.
Brought
and
us all
Crusader.
together. It was you that set the spirit free.
Yeah.
I can quote that. I mean, look at this program. This
Biff Byford,
This
man.
I obviously held on to when I was down front. That's why it's beat up. But
wow,
Wheels of
you didn't
Steel-
buy them after the show? I always bought them after the show.
Well, you get smart and buy them after, but sometimes you go after and they're no longer there.
Yep.
So you can see this one survived through.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, I was just in Switzerland.
Oh,
I ended up
one
running
vice at a
into the
time.
guy from Crocus.
The singer?
No, the drummer.
The drummer?
He couldn't believe that I had that program.
Wow. Crusader, man. Accept opened out here when I saw him. Balls
Michael
to the wall.
Schenker Group.
Schenker Group. Look at that.
Scorpions, 84. Now, here you go. What does that say?
Denim and leather, brother.
Brought us all together.
Look at
it
that.
was you that set the spirit free.
Look how small the photos are compared to the rest is all denim. That is incredible.
I mean, this to me is the trip down memory lane.
Wow,
This
man.
was the first Monsters of Rock I went to.
Yeah.
But
Anvil, that's a funny band.
Well, you've seen the documentary,
that's so
right?
great, right?
So check this out.
Monsters.
1984 Monsters.
Motley Crue.
Motley Crue way down on the bill there.
Yeah.
Check out the bill.
Okay, here's the bill. It's Tommy Vance, Motley Crue, except Y&T. Now, I just had Dave Medichetti on my show, and he described playing this gig. And look at that, Gary Moore.
Yeah.
And that's still got the blues era.
Uh-huh.
Then Ozzy.
Solo Ozzy right there.
Solo Ozzy.
Van Halen.
With then Van Halen. AC/DC.
Yeah. So let me show you this.
Oh, look at that.
There's Prime Angus.
Wow, Van Halen. Look at that, women and children. Look there.
So check it out.
Wow, signed right there from Eddie Van Halen, 2004.
Keep fucking rocking and don't forget to roll. So 20 years later.
Yeah, 20 years later.
So I got that signed in 04. And then obviously we're in LA, so you run into all these dudes late.
Yeah.
So I'm going backwards and then look what I got right here.
Nicky Six, good friend of mine right there. Love him.
So that was my era. You know, I also happened to see Thin Lizzy on what would become the very last tour.
Oh, the only band besides Skynyrd and Zeppelin that I didn't see. I saw everyone. I've seen everyone.
This ended up being the last tour. Phil passed away a year or two later.
God, this is John Sykes era.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Thunder and Lightning.
And I really love the Renegade record.
Uh-huh.
God, I love that.
Well, this show, I remember.
Look at that. Sykes
I kind of remember
all
this like the back of my hand because they played 2 nights at the City Hall in 83. The first night I bought a ticket. The second night I snuck in through the back door.
Wow, that's a great one right there,
and then,
son.
Talking of sad, tragic moments.
Oh, God, Motorhead, man.
So let me show you this. Hold on.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Yeah, Motorhead tattoo on your arm. Amazing.
So I remember when Ace of Spades came out, and we actually did. We're in the film location business here. You're asking me a little bit about what we do earlier,
Right.
and we do everything from small stuff to big stuff. And we get a lot of interesting phone calls, and the running joke always is everything's low budget. You know, it's Spielberg on the phone. He's working on a low budget project, but we got a call one day from one of the agents we were repped with, and they said, hey, it's a low budget production, but it's for the BBC. Being English, of course, that piqued my interest. I said, well, what is it? They said, well, they're shooting a documentary on the history of British heavy metal.
Oh.
So all of a sudden, my pulse is racing a bit. I'm intrigued. I go, well, who are they shooting?
Yeah.
They go, well, it's two guys from Black Sabbath and some guy from Motorhead. I'm like, you know what? Doesn't matter what they're paying, I'll do it. So it turned out to be Bill Ward and Geezer Butler and then Lemmy all in the same day.
At this place.
Yeah, hold on. I'll be back 1 second.
Hold on. Unbelievable, man. You're like look at that bottle.
Not just bottle, Lemmy's bottle.
Giant bottle of Jack Daniels.
Lemmy was the last one of the day. He came down around 6.
Yeah.
His assistant drove him down. I sat literally 10 feet away from Lemmy off camera and listened to him tell the whole story about being Jimi Hendrix roadie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've heard these stories, but when you're 10 feet away from Lemmy and you're watching him drink that whole bottle of Jack.
He drank that whole bottle?
Whole bottle.
No,
I swear to God.
You got to understand, people, this thing isn't the one you see at the store. This is like the super big gulp of Jack Daniels. This bottle, how big is this here?
I don't know what the size is.
Yeah,
I'm not a whiskey guy, but
it's huge.
What is it, like 4-inch square and 10-inch tall?
Yeah, it's bigger than he drank that whole thing.
Whole thing. So apparently, from what I found out later on, that's kind of in Lemmy's rider that bottle of whiskey travels with him. And I've heard some interesting stories about him getting upset when the bottle of whiskey is not in the car when he gets picked up. And one of the funny stories I heard was the guy said to him, hey, I wanted to give it you on set because I didn't want you to be fucked up before you got to set.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he doesn't get fucked up.
No, I listened to Lemmy talk everything about roadieing for Hendrix all the way through the Hawkwind days, of course, crossing over into the Pistols and then the birth of Motorhead on Bronze Records in the late 70s. And Motorhead seemed to be the great equalizer band that if you were a punk and you're into like Exploited or that Pistols or anything like
GBH.
that, you also liked Motorhead.
Yep.
It was sort of the one heavy metal or whatever you want to call them, rock and roll band that was the accepted band if you're a headbanger or you're a punk, was Motorhead.
A lot like AC/DC also.
Yeah. So Motorhead had a big sort of punk following. GBH fans also liked Motorhead.
Yep.
And, greasy headbangers like myself also liked Motorhead. So being a big Motorhead fan for well over 30 years, and obviously it's tragic to not have Lemmy with us. I mean,
I was at his 70th birthday.
Of the whiskey, like 2 weeks before, right?
Yeah, man, and it was just brutal, you know?
It's sad.
So, it's crazy.
I mean, he was really just fucking an inspirational character of just keep going,
I love that, man. I love that. I don't think that you, why would you stop?
Right.
Now, it's amazing. I absolutely, one of my biggest addictions is leather jackets. And you moved over here in, 84 or something?
Yeah, I came in 86. I'm actually stepping away. I'm one of those guys that likes to visualize things, but I'm talking with the mic. So I'm getting a prop that's going to lead into something for you.
Wow. Is that a jacket you made?
No, turn it around.
Okay.
It's not a jacket we made.
Alice Cooper.
It's a jacket Alice Cooper gave us in 97 that he wore on the tour in the 70s. I don't know which tour he wore it on because it's pretty small.
This thing's incredible.
But I don't know if it was $1 Billion Babies or what, but that's actually Alice Cooper's jacket from the 70s that he gave us in 97, so almost 20 years ago.
Who do you think made that? It looks like an East-West kind of, like somebody in L.A. made that,
Yeah, I mean, there's another cool dude, Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
All-around cool guy.
Now, when you get here in 84, it's really...
I got here in 86.
86.
Same era, though.
Yeah, it's really when Melrose is smashing. It's like you've got Leathers and Treasures.
Yeah. I remember that store.
Yeah, I remember that. And you've got all these stores, and it's really like it starts to hit Big E, denim, and leather. Bucos and Old Langlets and East West and all that stuff. Now, were you... Like, you're from Europe, now it's Lewis Leathers and all that. You get here...
Yeah, we had Bates and Lewis.
Those
were the leather jackets.
You get here and you start, combing Wasteland kind of stores and buying new shit?
Yeah, this was kind of pre-Wasteland, It was more Salvation Army yard sales, picking up old Levi's literally for 50 cents, anywhere from 50 cents to probably $2-3. That was it. And then selling them on the boardwalk in Venice was how I got my start. And back then in 86, 87, 88, Venice boardwalk was just a thriving hub of creativity and artistic people doing everything from Grateful Dead type stuff to dream catchers to guys selling cheap sunglasses and socks and everything in between.
It was amazing.
But the one thing it had was probably 100,000 tourists there every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Disneyland, Venice Beach. Those were the top two destinations.
It was really crazy,
European
right?
Tourist. Yeah, it kind of still is, but it's sort of changed. And
back then it was different, though.
Yeah, back then it was easy for guys like me and plenty of other people who just had an idea and probably had a little bit of a gumption to get stuff done. You know, my story is my story was I'd come to LA 86.
Why do you come to LA?
Sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Right, because you're a rock and roll freak, right?
I mean, I left England as a 19-year-old in 86 to actually work on a summer camp, believe it or not.
Wow.
With this organization called Camp America. Back then I was a bit more active, doing a lot of middle distance running and sports type stuff. And it was just a great way to get to America for nothing and spend the summer here. So that was how I ended up in Detroit.
Because the Sunset Strip was booming.
Yeah, but my stop before I got to LA was my American Dream story. Landed in New York, got on a Trailways bus to Detroit, worked on a summer camp in the summer of 86 north of Detroit on Lake Michigan, spent probably 2 months on that camp, and then headed on a Trailways bus west out to LA.
Trailways, man.
Yeah, not even around anymore. Trailways bus.
They were the Greyhound competitor.
Yeah, I guess they were the budget Greyhound competitor. You know,
budget Greyhound.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, you look on a map, you see Detroit, you see LA, you think in a straight line it's not too far, but the bus doesn't go that way. You know, it went through Memphis, Tennessee, and so I experienced America from the back of a Trailways bus driving cross country.
Kind of rock and roll style. Almost like Almost Famous, just looking out the window.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty funny film. You know, we always like that film, but I literally ended up at Union Station, which is 1 mile from where we're sat right now.
Yep. In
1986. I think the Trailways bus came in at like 4 or 5 a.m. It's dark.
No place to live. You're just no plan.
No, winging it. You know, I've got a big duffel bag. I'm falling asleep on a park bench. I get woken up by a security guard or cop at like 6 a.m. saying I can't sleep here. And I'm like, dude, I'm heading to Hollywood. How do I get to Hollywood? And, well, you got to go catch a bus there on Broadway, which is like a mile away, and ended up staying at the YMCA on Hollywood Boulevard.
Well, I know that
for 5 nights. That was my introduction to L.A. and Hollywood Boulevard before it got to Sunset Boulevard. And
are you going out right away to the clubs? Like you going to the Whiskey, the Roxy?
It happened straight away, but I got to back up and tell you you were talking about Melrose and L.A. and Leathers and Treasures.
I know that place is back in
I got to tell you my story. I mean, I've told it a few times, so if you've heard it, you know, go make a cup of tea or something. If you haven't, stay tuned. But
yeah.
So I'm rock and roll. You know, right now I'm sort of in my Hanoi Rocks, Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, spiky hair phase.
Great era.
Yeah.
Great era. And, dangerous as fuck.
Yeah, it's welcome to the jungle, you know, that's what it is. So I'm walking down Hollywood Boulevard with all the glitz and glamour and the grit and the cheese, it's all there. And I walk into this clothing store, like one of those cheesy sort of not cool clothing stores. But in the window, they've got some black snakeskin pants on sale for $9.99.
Real snake?
No, vinyl, PVC snakeskin.
Gotcha, yeah.
So I buy them, but they don't fit good. So I literally go back to the YMCA hotel and turn them inside out. I buy a sewing kit from somewhere and make them pretty tight. Yeah. And then I head off down to Melrose, literally sort of hitchhike down to Melrose, get there on a Saturday afternoon, and I'll speed the story up. But I end up walking into the store retail slut.
I know it. Yep. So my buddy worked there, Mickey Finn from Jetboy.
Yeah, from Jetboy. Yep. Well, this story ties in. Who's working there that day? Tammy Down, singer of Faster Pussycat.
Unbelievable.
So strike up a conversation because at the time I'm kind of looking a bit like Tammy.
Yep.
Spiky blonde hair. It's that whole Jetboy Cat House. Yeah, this is probably right when Cat House is about to happen.
The best.
So anyway, Tammy goes, wow, those are some cool pants. This is literally how the conversation goes. I go, thanks, man. You like him? He goes, yeah, where'd you get him from? And being sort of cocky, I go, England, why? You want to buy some? Not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
He goes, sure, how much are they? So bear in mind, I just bought a pair for $9.99 on Hollywood Boulevard, like no more than 2 miles away. I think pretty quickly on my feet. I go, $25, how many do you want? He goes, I'll take 8. Give me like a 130, 232, 234, and a 36. I'm like, fuck.
Wow.
So I go back up to Hollywood Boulevard. I'm actually with my cousin who joined me on the trip from Switzerland. I don't have the money to buy them, but, he loans me, I think I bought 12 pairs at $10, $120.
This is like one day in, a week in, or what?
First day.
First fucking day.
First day in. I think we got there at like 6 a.m. at that Greyhound station. We're in Hollywood by 8 or 9 in the YMCA.
Wow.
And I'm down Melrose by noon. Just verbally sold Tammy 8 pairs of pants at $25.
Wow.
Go right back up to Hollywood Boulevard, buy them for $10, take them right back down to Tammy. I don't even take them in. They're still the poor fitting version.
Yeah.
And he pays me cash. I'm like, fuck, this is... Maybe life in LA is not so bad. I mean, this is true story. It's what I call becoming an adaptive swimmer. Of my life's always been unscripted, and you just sort of make the most of every opportunity.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on buying vinyl pants at $10 and selling them for $25 within an hour. But that happened. So that was just an LA story. And those were sort of the great days of being able to do whatever you want to do. And I still describe LA like that. Interestingly, I had a great opportunity last week. I got approached to do a PSA announcement for the 2024 LA Olympic Games Commission bid on essentially LA stories. And I still feel the same way today as I did 30 years about LA. And what I love about it is the opportunity and the availability and diversity.
It's like constantly mining for gold here. At any time, you could be like,
find gold.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got to pan out.
It's a gold rush today. I mean, forget about 1849. I mean, it doesn't matter where you come from, what you sound like, what you do. If you're motivated, passionate, and you've got an idea and you put the hard work in, shit happens here in LA. It doesn't matter whether you want to be a movie star, rock star, design cars, go to space. Everything's here. It's the diversity and the availability to be able to get stuff done.
It's crazy.
And actually have your dreams come true. So
it's so true, man. It's like I started comedy at 44, and now I'm going to be 50 next week.
That's some funny shit right there.
Yeah, right? And the fucking crazy thing about it is I couldn't have done that anywhere else. You know, what I'm going to try to do comedy at 44 living in Tennessee or something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would have just been a couple open mics at a bar and never done it again.
So tell me what it was like starting comedy at 44.
Well,
why did it take you so long to get funny, or you were funny and just never motivated? I mean, what's the story there?
It's one of those things where I wanted to do it as a kid,
right?
And there was no kids doing comedy in the 70s. You know, it was like it was like Carlin and Pryor and all them, and they were kids, but they weren't 14 and 13. Right. And I also was absolutely obsessed with Saturday Night Live and John Belushi the first 3 seasons and stuff. And I didn't know how to get into it, but I was obsessed with rock. You know, so Saturday Night Live, you got the comedy and you've got the rock. It'd be like Stones played and Devo and all these things. So I started playing rock because the neighborhood kids played rock, and boom, 25 years went by.
What did you play?
I guitar and sang, but I'm the lead singer for years.
Okay.
But I was obsessed with rock, you know, same with you. I worshipped, Saxon, Accept, Maiden, Ozzy, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, you know, and I saw all these same bands. That's why when I look at you, I feel like we're like the same guy, you know? You're the British Del Rey.
The British version.
It's so weird, but like...
The just less funny version.
No, it's weird, though, because I have the...
so let's get back to comedy.
Yeah.
You're rocking out in the band.
Yep. Then about... I played music like 25 years, and then I just kind of, it's over. The download and everything's over, and I had to get a job.
It's like that great scene in Almost Famous when Philip Seymour Hoffman goes, rock and roll is dead, man, when he's playing the Lester Bangs guy.
Yeah, I love him on that. That's my favorite role he did.
He was actually a fucking killer act. Everything he was in.
Yeah.
You know, 25th Hour, the Ed Norton film.
Oh, God, I love that. You're like one of the only guys that's seen that one.
That film, I've seen it so many times.
He's so creepy.
When he's in the bath, well, yeah, but the Ed Norton character, when he's in the bathroom looking at himself in the mirror and he's doing the rant and he's going through every diverse group in the New York City. And, you know, I mean, it's just a fucking killer movie.
That movie made me buy a Super Bee.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because he's
Wasn't Joe Dirt?
No, Joe Dirt. But
Joe Dirty.
He owns that Super Bird now. Joe Dirt, you know, he bought a Superbird.
Oh, or David
Daytona.
Spade did?
He bought a Daytona last year.
Well, it's like I said earlier, Mopar or no car.
That's it, right?
But let's get back to, forget about the movies for a bit. Let's get back to, I'm staying focused on the comedic role here.
So I start working at Harley Davidson, and then in Van Nuys, I'm selling motorcycles, and I'm like, I'm I've been riding for 32 years.
So you're out in the 818.
And I was like, yep. And I was like, fuck it. I love motorcycles. I'll do that. And here I am in another phase of my life selling bikes. And the Tarantino crew comes in. They say, we're making a biker film. Can you help? I help them with some bikes and stuff. And next thing you know, I'm in this movie, Hell Ride. Larry Bishop directed and Tarantino produced. And from that, I got an Ice Cube movie where I met two comedians, Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live. So now it's coming full circle. Right. Here's a guy I worshipped and another comedian, Earthquake, on it. I said, I've always wanted to do comedy. And they're laughing at me like, yeah, right. And after about a month or two on the set, they gave me some tips. I hit the ground running. I've never stopped. Almost 3,000 shows.
You're kidding me.
No.
So you do a lot of stand-up?
2-3 times a night.
Here in LA?
Every night.
I've only ever gone once.
You're going to go next Tuesday.
Yeah, I've only ever gone once.
Who did you see? Joe?
No. Let me back up. I've gone twice. I went once maybe 30 years ago to the Improv on Melrose.
Yep.
Improv just by Crescent Heights.
That's it.
And then, oh, fuck, why is his name escaping me? Top Gear guy, Adam Ferrara.
Oh, yeah.
Went to see him in Pasadena.
Now, in the 80s, you're the same age as me. Did you get into Dice and Kinnison and all that? You were out here while that was happening.
No, I mean, truth be told, I'm not a big, funny guy. You know, I wasn't a Saturday Night Live guy. I think you either are or you're not. I never really clicked with it. So, obviously familiar with, those characters.
Right.
You know, and Wild Thing. I'm a big Howard Stern fan. So, listening to Sam Kinison on Howard Stern back in the late 80s, early 90s, I was aware of all that stuff. You know, it's funny. I mean, doesn't C.C. DeVille from Poison's mom own the Comedy Store or something like that? There's some connection there?
Pauly Shore's mom.
That's it, Pauly
Still
Shore's
does.
mom. Right.
I'm there every night.
But no, I mean, I was never one to go out and watch stand-up comedy. You know, it's...
Really?
Yeah, I like a laugh, but just never went down that road for whatever reason.
Boy, right now is the golden era. The second
wave, second coming.
And it is unbelievable. You got guys like C.K., Louis C.K., Bill Burr, Rogan. Of course, he did his podcast.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Can't speak highly enough about him. I mean, just inspirational guy. I mean, multitasking dude. That stand-up comedy, Fear Factor, all the UFC stuff, and then he's out hunting and grilling and riding, and he's a Porsche fan, so I gotta like that.
He's a lot like you and I. He has mad passion. If he likes something, he goes down the rabbit hole, finds out everything about it, and I love talking to him because we can go from eating meats to the end of the world, conspiracies to cars.
He's all about that, and then doing those massive workouts. I mean, I follow him on Instagram, so it's the variety of what he puts out there. And he's always on tour, you're right. I mean, he seems to be doing shit all the time.
And he's just smashing it. And he's a great guy. If he touches you and likes you, like where he just has the touch, like we said, you do his podcast, and all of a sudden the planet
realigns.
Is on board because he doesn't have anybody on the show. Like I was telling you, I don't have anybody on the show I don't have interest in.
I mean, what's cool about him is I'd never met him, but yet you feel that he's straight away. I mean, just one of those guys that has that rare talent of making you feel sort of like you're part of the clique.
Absolutely.
Even if it's for however long you're there. And those, I think we were there like 3 hours doing that podcast. And it's amazing how many people listen to that. I mean, I get emails all the time, and they sort of break down into a couple of categories. One is, I guess, the obvious, saw the film. The other one is I did a TED Talk, so that's completely not car-related, but it's more of like the motivational, inspirational end of things. And a lot of people shoot me emails that saw you on Rogan or listened to you on Rogan on the podcast. So
it's beyond.
His reach is pretty wide and vast.
A lot of people are like, well, you haven't done a set on the Tonight Show, or you haven't been on Conan, or you haven't. And it's like, yeah, but I did Rogan and Maron's podcast.
Yeah.
Those are 10 times bigger. And they stay forever. I could do a spot on the Tonight Show this week, and next week you'd fucking forget about it.
Yeah.
But when you do Rogan or Mark Maron's podcast, it's on there forever. And as the fans build and get bigger and bigger and bigger, they find you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. I constantly get emails, hey, I heard you on Rogan. That was over 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I'm still getting them. People are catching up.
That's the point. Yeah, that's the point I'm making right there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's another great example about what's great about LA. I'm assuming, you started your stand-up here in LA at a later age, but you never gave up on that dream that you had 30 years before.
Never.
And when the time was right, you just fucking started running and dropped into it, is what I'm picking up from you.
Yeah, I've been on
that's
stage.
what's great about it. What I was saying earlier, LA, you can do that stuff.
Exactly. Because LA has opportunities. You have to be out in LA, though. I never understand people that move here and then they stay home and just watch TV and get a regular job.
Yeah, waiting for someone to knock on the door.
Yeah, that's not what this town is. You have to be out in the fucking river shaking the pan to find the gold. You can't just stay home and gold rolls in.
No, I don't work that way. That's where the motivation comes in. You got to have to want it. I mean, it's here, but you're going to have to fight for it because, there's a lot of other people here. I mean, there's a lot of actors that are waitresses and waiters out there, but, they're chasing their craft, and there's a lot of guys that are still rocking and rolling, chasing that dream and never giving up on it. I mean, that's what's great. It's like a PA for the city of LA. What's great about LA? It's like that Randy Newman song, I Love LA. I mean, just a great place to be. The weather's good, and if you like to drive, if you like to drive or ride, Saturday I was out in Angeles Crest Highway.
Yep.
I get up past Newcomb's Ranch to almost 8,000 feet. There's still snow there.
Love it up there.
I love it there too. That's one of my favorite all-time roads. Yesterday I'm out with my buddies in the Santa Monica Mountains. So Saturday I'm at Newcomb's Ranch, the bike cafe out in Angeles Crest Highway. Yesterday I'm out at the Rock Store. So I've been mountains, I've been ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, I once did a run because you always hear about you can, surf, ski, mountain, desert, ocean all in one day. So I decided, you know what, fuck that, I'll try and do it in the morning. So I did it from Santa Monica to Palm Springs. Started up Santa Monica, that was ocean, at like 7 a.m. Was in Palm Springs by 8:30 at the tram.
Whoa.
And mapped that. You see how far it is from Santa Monica Pier to Palm Springs? I was there in under an hour and a half at the tram station.
Wow.
So that was the desert part. And then I was heading to Big Bear for the mountain part, but the road to Big Bear was closed, so I ended up at Lake Arrowhead. I think I was at Lake Arrowhead by, 10:30. I wasn't skiing or surfing, but snapping photos.
Yeah.
And then I was back downtown in this warehouse by 12:30. I'd done 300-mile loop in a morning.
Is that right?
I documented, I swear to God, I'd done the whole loop, stopped off along the way, done the photos, and done the 300-mile loop in, a morning, essentially. So,
well, this state is amazing.
You know,
this whole area. I grew up, I was born in Yosemite, but then grew up in the Bay Area. But it's funny when people go like, you're so lucky you traveled all over the world with rock and roll and everything. And I'm like, you haven't even traveled to like Yosemite or Malibu or Palm Springs. This fucking state has shit that is way better than cruising around Europe.
Yeah, I mean, the diversity. It's like my buddy was just out scouting a location for a shoot we want to do out at the Salton Sea.
Oh, it's so great.
So talk about a trip out there. I mean,
that's so great
dead
out
fish
there.
washing up. And
that movie's amazing.
Oh, something with Val Kilmer.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's a killer movie.
That is a killer movie.
So there's some great driving roads. I want to do the Palms to Pines Road out of Palm Desert and then drop down into Borrego Springs and then do Bombay Beach, Slab City, Salton Sea, and then end it sort of 29 Palms, Joshua Tree.
Wow.
Another trippy area, Graham Parsons auto theft movie.
Yeah.
All the Queens of the Stone Age, Stoner Rock out there.
Of course. Yeah, Rancho de la Luna.
If you map quest from where we are to Salton Sea, I did it. It's 165 miles to sort of Bombay Beach from here. But it's like an apocalyptic setting out there.
Yeah, Chris Goss lives out there for Masters of Reality. He's one of my favorite humans on the planet. And
what does he say about
it? He just loves it. I mean, it's just like, he produced Caius, and then he produced Queens of the Stone Age, and he had... he's basically the desert mayor, I call him. That whole stoner sound and everything.
He's in 29 Palms or more of the Salton Sea sort of?
He's more, he's by Rancho. He lives right by there. But, that area is magic, man. If you are a type of guy who's kind of like, I want to be out in no man's land.
Yeah, that's no man's land.
Yeah, totally. It's Road Warrior.
That's another film. Charlie Sheen, No Man's Land, remember?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you remind me of a little bit of the thing I love is I love Mad Max Road Warrior, the originals.
Yeah. Mel Gibson.
And
what year was that first film? 70 what? It's probably almost 40 years ago now.
Yeah, I don't know. What's that, 74 or something? 72?
It's like 76, 78. It's close to 40 years.
Right. But my whole life, I always describe a look as Road Warrior. I love it, you know. I love that look of Road Warrior, where you just look like it's you in the car and the same out for forever, like a Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
You know.
That's me. I haven't changed these pants, I don't think, in 3 months, truth be told.
What are those, denim?
Yeah, they are denim, but they're sort of
They're like
greasy
waxed.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you don't wash something for about 3 months.
Yeah, right?
Maybe more.
I'm the same way.
You know, you get comfortable. I always talk about, I got it right here, talk about favorite pair of old shoes.
Yep.
So that is a prime example there. You know, this right here is another prime example. I can't give up on them. I'm actually about to take these today to get them resold.
Wow.
For about the 8th time. And you see how they're all patched up?
Yep.
They weren't patched up when I bought them, but you get comfortable in things. You know, I talk about, you know, tactile feeling and comfort of old shoes. And these are not just words I'm saying, you know, these are my favorite pair of old shoes.
Yeah. When'd you get those?
I honestly don't know, about 10 years ago, but I swear to God, I've resold them about 8 times.
Yeah.
And then you can see where, you know, I love driving, so heeling and turning. You see how it just destroys the heels?
Yep.
So, you know, that's pretty common.
Wow.
Wear and tear on boots. But, you know, denim and stuff like that's the same thing. The more you wear it, the better it gets. So
it really does, man, especially leather.
Denim
leather is unbelievable. Do you feel, and you're a lot like me, I'm looking around here and you just have tons of shit, but it's all stuff. And the reason I bring this up is I just moved and I'm realizing, man, I got so much shit. There's 2 frames of mine in my mind. Do I just have nothing except this fucking perfect jacket, perfect boots, perfect motorcycle? Can you be happy that way? Because I think I can for a minute, and then I'm just right back on eBay looking for something.
I can't throw anything away. You know, I'm sort of fortunate that we got 26,000 square feet of storage space here in this 1902 building. And for me, everything that you look around tells a story, and it's a memorable moment, no matter what it is. Guitar, you know.
Yeah.
You look over there, that white Studio Les Paul.
Yep.
Signed by the Eagles, you know. I don't want to get all morbid about great rock and roll people that are not with us, but it's not been a good month of Lemmy passing and then Bowie passing. That guitar is autographed by Glenn Frey.
It's unbelievable, man.
So I did a shoot with the Eagles. I don't know if you noticed, I have an Eagles Sheffield poster in the warehouse.
I saw that.
So that was a gift from Joe Walsh. Wow. Joe Walsh and I hit it off really pretty well. And it was funny. They were doing a shoot here, the whole band, and they had a stylist, and everyone's sort of wearing designer Gucci and Prada stuff.
Yeah.
That's not Joe Walsh. He's kind of quirky. And Joe Walsh literally picked something out of our Serious clothing line and wore it in the shoot. And, of course, the stylist hated him for doing that, but him and I sort of clicked. So at the end of the day, he shows up and says, I've got something for you. Of course, I told him the story, Sheffield, blah, 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 told me he played there, and Eagles played all over the world.
Yep.
But the same day, by the end of the day, Joe Walsh had given me an Eagles poster of them playing Sheffield. I'm like, how did that happen? I mean, I don't think, obviously they had it laying around, but the fact that he went out of his way to get that poster really meant something.
Yep.
Just like when I had the band sign the guitar over there, it meant something.
Yeah.
So those are just moments, you know, it's what I call a memorable moment in time that is always with you.
It's tough to throw away shit though, right? Because
look at this. This is not even throwing it away. This is bringing it back from England.
Yeah.
25 years, not 25, 35 years later.
I'm the same way. As I was unpacking, I was shooting photos on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, here's a ticket from 79. Here's a ticket from 80. Oh, here's a promo. Here's a backstage pass. And as I'm going through this stuff, I'm realizing, man, this life I've lived is just incredible. And it's all because of rock and roll. And it's kind of like you come here because of rock and roll, you know? It's a spirit, it gets in you and you can't fucking shake it.
Yeah, it's I say that about Porsche, actually, to sidetrack a little bit, but rock and roll really is the same thing. I mean, all these bands that I saw, you know, 1983, I was 16 then.
Yep.
So as a teenager, you don't really have many long-term memories because you haven't lived long enough. I don't feel I'm any different today. I've still got long hair, maybe grayer and thinner, but I honestly don't really feel any different than I did when I was 16. I had long hair when I was 16.
Me too.
The big difference is that really shocks me is you'll hear a song, and it doesn't even have to be a rock song. It can just be a moment in time. It could be something like Duran Duran on the radio, for example, something I wasn't really into, but I was there when it happened. And you go, fuck, that's actually 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So it just really puts everything into perspective. And I'm a big believer in making the most out of every moment, because someone told me you got 100% of your life to live, which you do. What you don't know is whether that life is 50 years or whether you're going to live 100 years.
Right.
So I've never been one of those to say, wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda.
I'm the same way.
I mean, for me, coming to America as a 19-year-old was the best thing I ever did, because it really represented freedom to do whatever you want to do. So to answer your question about getting rid of stuff, for me, I got so much stuff around that represent a period of time, whatever phase that may be. The Alice Cooper jacket from 1987 there, stuff like that. It's that moment in time that you'll always have the memory. So
yeah,
if you got the space, keep it. That's what I say.
Also, I think people really, really enjoy when I show them or you show them stuff, like say Instagram, or if I'm periscoping or whatever. People, they lose their mind. They're like, fuck, you were there,
yeah.
And I was really just like, as cheesy as this sounds, a wild child. I just went to every show there was. It's what I did. I bought the shirt. I had the fucking program. I cut the programs up, hung them on the walls, I'd buy 2 programs, one to cut up, one to keep. All my stuff is mint, too. I'm a weirdo like that. Like, my shit's all, like, perfect. If it gets bent, I'm bummed.
No, not me.
Not yours. I know. I'm looking at.
Mine's beat up shit. I'm not so much a collector that sources things out, but I keep stuff.
Yeah.
And I think to touch back on what you were just saying is people relate to me through various things because they have a common bond connection of, I was into that. I was there. That guy did that. I'm going to do that. His story's similar to what I want to do or I did, or it becomes that common bond connection, which makes you relatable. And I think ultimately that's the best thing that can happen right there.
So you start selling the pants to Tammy.
Yeah.
And now what happens? That's like day one.
That's day one. Now, the clothing thing didn't really take off straight away. It was more of the next 2 years of sex, drugs, rock and roll, Gunna, Cat House, Scream, English Acid, all these clubs and seeing all these bands.
Madam Wong's.
Yeah, I went to all that stuff. Park Plaza Hotel on a Friday, Saturday night, downtown, the Scream Club. I saw a mixed bag of bands, from bands like Motorcycle Boy to the more sort of gothy.
Circus of Power.
Yeah, I saw those guys, but I also saw the slightly more sort of gothy, Bauhausy, Specimen, those type of
Gene Loves Jezebel.
Gene Loves Jezebel. Yeah, I saw all that stuff. I remember James Addiction when they were first forming.
Awesome.
I even, lived in the building in Venice where the bass player lived in, right there off San Juan and Riviera.
Yeah, Eric Avery.
Yeah, he lived in the same building on the corner in Venice before.
Yeah, a lot of musicians lived in Venice back in the 80s.
Yeah, that was me, So the clothing thing didn't happen straight away, even though I'd had that taste. It was probably 2 years later when the sort of maybe novelty of going out 3-4 nights a week was wearing off a little bit. By this time, I'm, I guess, 21, 22.
Right. And you're living in Venice?
No, well, first 2 years I'm couch hopping around Hollywood, just sort of enjoying life, odd jobs here and there, but not working, but, a couple of days here, a couple of days there. And you got to remember 30 years ago, $100 lasted a long time.
It's so true. Rent. My rent in San Fran in the late 80s, early 90s, whatever it was $250.
Yeah,
for a studio.
Yeah, I wasn't paying rent. I'm getting into clubs free. You get in there early so you can get a buzz on because beer's 50 cents.
Yeah, remember that? And you could go to all those like weird happy hours around Hollywood back in the day.
Whiskey a Go-Go might have been free on a Monday early before 10 or 11. So you just, sort of pick your time slot to go places. So the clothing thing happened probably a little later, like 88, 89. I got a part-time job on the boardwalk in Venice selling seconds from the Gap. And I was the hawker guy that would be step right up, don't be shy, buy one, get one free, 1 for $5, 3 for $10 type of thing.
Selling second,
clothing from the Gap, but seconds off price. That's what was going on there. And so that was how I sort of fell into the vintage stuff, because I noticed there was a guy next door who was selling old cowboy boots and motorcycle jackets.
Oh, that place there?
Well, there was Aardvarks down there, so that had always been there. So I just started sort of getting, I used to rent a spot during the week for $10 a day. So I'd go early mornings, thrift stores when they first opened, buying old flannel Paisley Cowboy shirts and stuff vintage clothing essentially was what it was. Of course. And then I started putting patches on Levi's. And I got a funny story. I'd always been into Americana, Stars and Stripes, Evel Knievel. That's pretty well known.
Of course. I love Evel Knievel.
Yeah, I'd bought this, what turned out to be a Peter Max bedspread, but I didn't realize it was a Peter Max bedspread. It was just this cool, trippy, psychedelic thing with stars on it. I cut it up, put patches on the jeans. I'd probably bought the jeans for a couple of bucks and patched it up. I could sew. My girlfriend at the time had a sewing machine, so we'd take the seams apart, put patches on it, and sell them for $25. And one guy came up and said, "Do you know that's actually a pretty valuable Peter Max bedspread?" I go, "No, I didn't know that." But anyway, so it was one step at a time. And
yeah.
Things started gradually, but sort of, I'd gone from kind of like not having much money coming into back then. I think the first day we might have made $50, second day $100, but it built up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, pretty quickly it was doing the patches on the jeans, and then we got into doing, by accident, sort of psychedelic hats. There was always people selling Guatemalan stuff, but someone came up to me one day and said, "Can you make a Cat in the Hat hat?" And I didn't really know what it was. But
kind of like that jellyfish look.
Yeah, and it was all sort of happening at the same time because it was not just jellyfish. There were three things going on. There was a jellyfish, Black Crow, Southern Rock, floppy hats.
Totally.
70s trippy stuff. Yeah. Well, yeah, London Choir. Bam, the drummer, I became friends with him. He lived in Venice right next door to where we sold stuff.
Right.
And then the other thing that happened right around 89 to 89, 90 was the British rave scene.
Oh, yeah.
So all those raves were Alice in Wonderland themed, top hat, trippy. And so all of a sudden, it wasn't just patch jeans and overalls to the rock and roll crowd. It was big floppy hats, court jester hats, Mad Hatter hats to the whole
total ecstasy
trippy
vibe.
rave. Yeah. So even though I wasn't really a raver, that was all happening in Venice because that was sort of an extension of the Grateful Dead crowd.
Yeah.
So it was all there, big melting pot. So, of course, we're selling stuff on the boardwalk faster than we can make it. And then we took a bag of shit down to Melrose. And the first store we ever sold was Wacko. Soap
Wacko.
Plant, Billy Zane.
Great store.
So that was the first store we sold. And then we sold Narnars. You probably remember Narnars.
Yeah, of course.
3rd Street
Doc
Promenade.
Martens.
Yeah. So that was that crowd. And then I think the first trade show we ever did was 1991. And that was right when the Gulf War broke out. And we had a lot of Uncle Sam Stars and Stripes stuff that I liked because of my Americana passion. But all of a sudden, everyone had American fever and Stars and Stripes were everywhere. So we're getting orders for Stars and Stripes jeans and Uncle Sam top hats.
And it's the brand serious then?
No, back then this is Venetian paradise. We're living in Venice. It's paradise. It's pretty simple.
Wow.
Venetian paradise. So we started wholesaling and we went to a show in New York. And the very first trade show, we got an order from Disneyland.
Really?
144 of 12 styles. So they'd buy 12 different hats, 144 pieces of each one. So by this time, we can't make them. We got to go to a hat contractor.
Yeah.
Of course, what we're making is a bit tricky. It's reversible and it's not a standard baseball cap.
Wow.
So now we're getting things made. Instead of doing like a dozen, we're doing 144 of them or 250 of them.
And are you still going out at night or are you just like, fuck it, I'm a businessman now?
No, we're still going out at night because, you got to remember I'm 22, 23. You can go out at night till 2, 3 in the morning, get a little fucked up and still do stuff the next day. You can do that when you're young.
Yep.
Fast forward now, I've realized you can't do that.
You can't do that shit now.
Last week I went to see Shooter Jennings at the Viper Room and didn't go to bed till like 3 a.m. And I had a 7 a.m. shoot in the morning with my buddy Larry for Speed Hunters. I had to get up at 6. I'm like, 3 hours of sleep when you're approaching 50, you don't bounce back.
Yeah.
3 hours of sleep when you're in your early 20s doesn't matter.
Yeah, especially like your voice, gets trashed.
Right.
If I'm
a guy like you, voice is your instrument.
Oh my God! If I only get about 3-4 hours of sleep, it's trashed.
Yeah, that reminds me of a funny story. Probably 20 years ago, we went to see Beck, my wife and I, Santa Monica Civic, and we used to go to a lot of rock shows back then because yet again we like going out and it's like the anticlimactic backstage stuff. I've been to a lot of backstage venues, but backstage at Beck wasn't sex, drugs, rock and roll. It was soy milk and chai latte type stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Health food.
Yeah. Early 90s, things are going gung-ho. And we had a great run for probably 2 years before people caught on to, we could knock this off and make this stuff in China.
Oh, no.
For sort of like, way less money. So that was the beginning of the end of the patchwork jeans, crazy hat, Venetian paradise days. And we'd literally become, pardon the pun, old hat.
Yeah.
So how Serious came about is back then we were selling a bunch of stuff to East Coast rappers because they also like the big sort of, like Flavor Flav type of guys, like the big exaggerated hats and stuff. Even though, I was a rock and roller.
There's like Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
There was that kind of flashy hip hop.
So it was the whole crossover thing. I wasn't into the music though, but there was a connection with the style there. There was a common thread with those people, and or that music scene, I should say. And anyway, one of these guys, I forget who it was. Literally, this is how Sirius happened. He goes, "Wow, that's some serious shit you got there." I'm like, "Serious?" Yeah, name change. So to move away from the old hat, we were already moving into cut and sew, velvet pants, very sort of funhouse, Black Crowsy. But because the name sort of Venetian Paradise was so associated with hats and we'd become pigeonholed as that,
right,
it sort of made sense to change our name, even though we were no different. And that was when we started wholesaling. We'd already been wholesaling this store called Hot Topic.
Oh, Hot Topic. Course.
We sold them first in 1991 when they had 5 stores.
Wow.
Then it had grown to over 700. So we did a lot of cut and sew under the Sirius label for Hot Topic. This is now 94, 95. To come full circle by 96, we'd opened our store on Melrose. Now remember my Tammy Down story, Retail Slut?
Yep.
So 10 years after that, Tammy actually worked at the Sirius store with us. And
I remember that store.
Yeah, it was on. We had a Sirius store for probably 5 or 6 years on Melrose. So those were great times, and it was kind of full circle because Tammy sort of, in a way, started my LA garment story, and then 10 years later we were working together.
That's wild, right?
So full circle, yeah. So those were great days, the 90s. I described the 20s as times when you're out having fun. The 30s was a decade when you get serious about business. We were doing well then.
Yeah.
We started buying property. We bought this building.
What year did you buy this building?
2000. So I guess I was 33 when we bought it. We'd been renting a warehouse in the garment district that was 5,600 feet, and we'd rented a loft down the road at 7th and Santa Fe that was like 3,000 feet.
And what drew you to downtown? Because of the massive spaces, of course, because I'm always obsessed with lofts, and I still have not gotten into one.
Yeah, I mean, back then I was living in Venice. I've told that story, but running a garment company out of Venice was difficult because nothing was in Venice from a manufacturing point of view. Venice was cool.
You got to keep coming down here.
Got to keep coming downtown, and no one would deliver
Garment
or pick
district.
up. So it just made more sense to be right where everything was. We were already commuting to downtown for production, for getting fabric. So in 94, I rented a loft on 7th and Santa Fe.
What was the rent in 94? You remember?
I had 3,500 square feet at a killer 3-story brick building at the end of 7th Place, which backed onto the railroad track, 1 block south of 7th Street by the fire station. It was $1,200.
$1,200. 3,500
square feet. And it was nice. It wasn't like sort of raw space. It was nice, polished floors, all brick, big windows.
Wow.
So Karen and I were there from 94 to 2000. We also rented a 5,600 square foot warehouse in the garment district. I think that rent was like, I don't know, $2,000 or something like that. So we're making money, and finally it was like, fuck, we need to buy our own building. Why are we paying 2 people's mortgages?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like the best time. At the time, it seemed like, fuck, how are we going to be able to afford this? Because we'd never owned anything.
Right.
But 16 years later, the building's literally gone up over 12 times what we paid for it.
What did you pay for it? If
I never tell, but not a lot of money.
Right.
Back then was sort of rock bottom.
Yeah, because this neighborhood was straight just junkies, homeless, and transients.
Yeah, you describe it real well. People thought we were crazy because it was just that. It was never gangy, but it was truckers, hookers giving blowjobs to truckers. There was a lot of homeless encampment under the 6th Street Bridge and 4th Street Bridge. Yep. So a lot of prostitution,
junkies,
a lot of petty crime, a lot of homeless on homeless violence, a lot of sort of people coming down a score, and a lot of dealers pimps and dealers sort of checking up on stuff. It was like that. It was
anybody breaking in here at the time back then?
No, fingers crossed, touch wood. We'd never had those issues. We'd lived down from 94, so we were used to it. It was desolate. You'd sort of nowhere to walk to, so you'd drive out to go shopping, drive out to go to Hollywood.
Yeah, you couldn't walk anywhere.
Then you're in your compound. I mean, you could, but you'd be tripping over shit, vomiting needles with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You could walk to Denny's or the TV cafe or, 90s was kind of odd because 80s you had Gorky's and Al's Bar and places like that. But by the sort of mid to late 90s, that stuff was gone, closing down, and it was sort of no man's land.
Yeah.
It was pre-downtown boom, which sort of happened first wave, I guess, 2002, 2004.
Right.
More sort of in the Bank District, Tom Gilmore, that area getting converted.
Yeah, those lofts.
And Arts District was always the epicenter of true creative space, but was more sort of like Williamsburg or Oakland, sort of not quite in the middle of it. So what brought me downtown really was just accessibility and big open space and affordability. In essence, the ability, yet again, to be able to do whatever you wanted to do.
The place is spectacular. It's exactly like I always think in my mind, like, I've done pretty much everything I've wanted to do, but I've always wanted to have a fucking loft. It was a dream where I could just pull my bikes in. There's my bikes over there.
Right, that's a compound.
Yeah, it's a compound, and it's a dream to have a compound. I'm not there yet, but I know it'll happen. But as I walk around this one, it is exactly what you want. It's the upstairs with the hardwood floors and the exposed brick and all the wood. It's just fucking epic.
You know, they don't make them like this anymore. Doug Fir joists, 8x8 columns, old brick. I mean, for us, I talk about common threads that have happened in my life. My 30 years of being in LA, my LA story. And the common thread really goes from clothing to buildings that we own to the Porsches that I've collected. And the common thread is each one's got its own unique style. I've said this a million times. The Sirius clothing, you could tell it was our style because it was slightly different. We used unconventional materials, car seat fabric, for example, to make stuff out of. When we bought this building, people thought we were crazy, but Karen and I we like projects. We knew we had a dream and we knew we'd make this thing work. And we always have this philosophy of how bad could it be. What we didn't realize is it'd get us into the film location business.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, how does that happen? Does someone knock on your door the first one time?
Let me show you how that happens.
Because you're doing location stuff. If people don't understand what that is, it's
let me
Hollywood,
show you. Yeah,
like looking for a location. We need like a warehouse, or we need like a...
all that shit you see on TV, whether it's a Taco Bell commercial or Terminator, someone needs a location to shoot in. So we bought the building in 2000. We moved in. We did probably a year-long build-out to the way you see it. And right after we moved in, back to history and never throwing shit away, September 30th, 2001, there was an article in the LA Times Sunday Color Supplement that I'll show you right now about loft gentrification. And there were probably a dozen lofts featured in this color supplement.
Different people, I can see them, different
but as
owners.
you can see, most of them have just got a one-page spread.
Yeah.
But because we'd done something a little bit different, what we ended up with was a big, full, glossy center color spread.
Yeah.
So right after 9/11, this came out like 3 weeks after. 9/11, you're like, fuck, world is over type of thing.
Totally.
From this one article, we got a phone call probably a week later. Would we be interested in renting the building for a video, which turned out to be a Missy Elliott video featuring Tweet.
Wow.
We'd seen a lot of filming, obviously, having lived downtown in this neighborhood.
Of course, all the
We'd seen
time.
everything. Batman, Terminator, Gone in 60 Seconds. But because we didn't own property, it never even occurred to us that you could rent your building out to a film company.
Wow.
So we get this phone call. It's a music video. We're naive, so we figure what goes around comes around. Sure, we'll do it. And let me tell you this story, because it was like the best and worst first thing to ever do. The crash course into Hollywood film location business.
Yep.
So call time's on a Friday at 6 a.m. I don't know what a site rep is, so I'm doing it all myself. Fast forward, all of a sudden there's 100 people here, and people are asking, can we just go shoot a little scene in that office over there? I'm like, sure, no problem, you're here. 3 hours later, I'm like, why are there another 50 people here? Oh, the producers didn't tell you we're shooting a time for a Verizon cell phone commercial on the back end of the music video?
What?
I'm like, no, nobody told me that. Then they said, can we shoot a little nightclub scene in your garage? I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll move a few cars around. So remember, I've started at 6 a.m. in the morning. By midnight, I'm done. I'm fried. My patience is done. They've gone over the 14-hour on the contract. I no longer care. I'm just done of it, because it's like, you can imagine 200 people. It's
They're
the whole
scamming
scene.
too, man.
Yeah, by this time I know I'm getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm done. You guys have got to wrap it up. We're done, finished. Long story short, by 4 a.m., the dust has settled. I've put everything back together, but I've been up 22 hours. Karen and I are upstairs right above us in the bedroom. We go, fuck, we'll never do that again. What a fucking nightmare. Well, by Monday, when we'd calmed down and we realized how much money we'd made, because they'd gone 8 hours into overtime. 2 hours was time and a half, then it was double time. We made a shitload of dough that day.
Yeah.
So we said, you know what, maybe we will do it again. And 15 years later, we're still filming almost 100 days a year.
Now, did you get a rep, or how did you start getting the word out there other than that?
It was relatively easy. From this one article, we got that one shoot, then word spread. So to begin with, we're listed with 5 or 6 location service agents. But because we're adaptive swimmers, we realized, fuck, we got to do our own thing.
Totally.
So we got our own website, went to the California Film Commission. We bought a mailing list of film location people, and we mailed them a postcard. Here's our facility. Got up a website, and I'd probably say 70% of what we book today is referrals, not necessarily through agencies.
Yeah.
It's once you get a name for being a film-friendly location that you're not taking advantage of production companies, i.e. you're not charging them for every little nick and scratch on the floor, you get a good reputation and people come back. We've shot the TV show CSI New York when it was on. We shot 5 different episodes all in the same building.
Wow.
So
what's the biggest thing you shot in here?
Well, there's a couple of pivotal things, couple of pivotal moments. So we start filming in 2001, and for the first 3 years, we're living and filming here at the same time.
Right.
But pretty soon, so we're selective as to what we do, because the novelty of renting a hotel at the Standard wears off pretty quick. So,
yeah, you're like, we'll just stay in a hotel, and then you're like, we're
pay
not
for
at
us
our
for a
place.
hotel. So that novelty wears off. But the big turning point was the first 2-3 years, we were pretty selective, probably doing 12 to 15, 20 days a year. In early 2004, we shot a Bruce Willis movie called The Whole 10 Yards.
Wow.
It's Bruce Willis, Matthew Perry, Amanda Peet. And they were here for a month.
Whoa.
Rented us a house in the Hollywood Hills and paid us a shitload of dough. And we were all like, light bulb flashed. I bet if we didn't live here, we could film all the time. So 2004, we take a leap of faith and we moved out of the building.
Right around the corner.
No, we actually rented a house in the Hollywood Hills for 3 months because we didn't know if we were ever going to move back.
Right.
So we literally left everything in the closet upstairs, which 12 years later is still there. And that 3-month rental in the Hollywood Hills became a 2-year rental in the Hollywood Hills.
Whoa.
So we were like, wow, it was like being on sort of permanent vacation for 2 years. But
yeah, and you're just constantly renting.
Yeah, first year didn't matter. Second year, we're like, fuck, we're paying this pretty high rent. We could be buying another building. So we ended up buying another loft right around the corner in 2006, 10 years ago.
Wow.
We were downtown every day because we were managing the business. And back then, Sirius is still going big. We're still doing Hot Topic, and we're doing a lot of filming.
Wow.
Literally 100 days a year, shooting a lot of reality shows like America's Next Top Model and commercials and infomercials and you name it, we kind of did it.
Is the clothing still going?
No, but I'll get to that story in a minute. So 2004, we move out, not knowing if we're moving out for 3 months or 12 years later, we'd never move back, even though we're in the building every day because it's housing the Porsche collection, which is my out-of-control hobby,
yeah,
and the day job, which at the time was the clothing. So from 2004 to probably 2010, 2011, filming's mega lucrative, but we're still doing the clothing. But by this time, we've done clothing for 20 years, and we're sort of disorientated with it. We always said we personally design what we like to wear, but fast forward now, we're sort of, I guess we're in our 40s and we're not going out 3 nights a week anymore. We don't care.
Right.
We're not trendy anymore. We're not cool. So we'd lost touch with our core audience. Just sort of, the filming had allowed us to sort of back out of the clothing, and our passion had waned. And passion is an important word that I use all the time because now that we're no longer passionate about designing clothing, of course, what happens? Sales start dwindling.
Yeah.
But because Sirius was our baby, we'd done it for over 20 years. It enabled us to get this building, which enabled us to get into the film business. We kind of knew we had to close it down, but we had employees who were like family, and we couldn't give it up, even though we knew we had to. We would just basically keep employees busy and paying payroll taxes, and we felt like we're on the treadmill of life going through the motions, but we couldn't get rid of this. We couldn't pull the bandage off and stop, even though financially we had a little buffer with the filming that it didn't matter.
And rock had kind of died, the look, right? I mean, you and I love the look, but it's not like it's flying out the doors.
Yeah, sales had dwindled because, Target and Kmart are doing watered-down versions for $9.99, and Hot Topic sales were no longer 3,000 to 5,000 pieces. They're struggling. So, yeah, the clothing industry is really tough because it's always same but different, over and over again. So you constantly have to re-evolve. which is great if you're into it. But once your sort of passion's gone, we became a bit stale. So finally, we're like, you know what, fuck it. Success to us means being able to do whatever you want to do. So why don't we just stop trading? We're not going to sell it, but we'll just stop doing trade shows. We'll wind it down. We'll let our employees know we're going to stop it. You can see we never sold everything. We still got the sewing machines and the patents.
Yeah, I saw that.
But we just stopped doing trade shows. And we were fortunate enough that the filming was pretty lucrative, that we knew we could pay the mortgage, but we didn't know what was coming next. So I often say you close one door, another door opens up. Well, this is the lead into what became Urban Outlaw. So I've been a Porsche guy since 1992. This is 2011, 2012. I did a lot of club racing over there in the early 2000s.
That, yeah.
From like 02 to 06, 7, 8, I'm doing 50 track days a year and racing a lot of tracks and driving my car to the track and getting a little bit of a reputation, bit of a spirited driver. People are starting to hear about my Porsche collection a little bit. And obviously being in the film location business, I'm getting approached by people that want to do things, films, documentaries, shoot stuff for you. But believe it or not, I was a little bit under the radar there and kind of like that low-key vibe. And then I got an email from this crazy Canadian who I call my Canadian beardo brother, Tamir Moscovici, in January of 2012. So what is that, 4 years ago? And he'd followed this thread that I had. It was called Porsche Collection Out of Control Hobby on Pelican Parts, which if you're a Porsche guy, you'll know that's a big online forum for all things Porsche related. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly type thing. So he'd followed that. I'd been starting to get some editorial in some European magazines, and he was a creative commercial film director, but also a Porsche enthusiast, and realized there might be a little bit more to my story than he'd read about, and asked me if I'd be interested in doing a little short documentary, which was a passion project of his. So his initial thing was a 5-6 minute YouTube documentary for the YouTube Film Fest.
Right.
So I talk about karma, fate, and organic stuff all the time. So Tamir ended up flying down in February of 2012 on frequent flyer miles from Toronto and hired a ramshackle crew of really talented people in LA that happened not to be busy that period of time, who basically worked for a quarter of their regular scale. And for us, we had no expectations. It was, how bad can this be yet again? We're going to get some great driving footage.
Yeah.
Because I was just starting to think about, maybe getting on Facebook. Instagram wasn't even on my radar back then. I'm still the guy with a Razor flip phone, so I haven't drank the iPhone Kool-Aid. I'm hanging out there, holding out, because I'm going to be the last guy to get an iPhone type of thing. That's not cool. So anyway, long story short, Tamir flies down. We get on like a house on fire, and we shoot for 4 days and end up with what becomes a 32-minute documentary that we released a trailer in June of 2012 that went viral, got on Top Gear, and got several million views within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then Tamir, being a savvy filmmaker that he is, he got the film into the London Rain Dance Film Festival, which is the rainy version of Sundance.
Yep.
And, of course, we never thought we'd be at a film festival, so we flew to England, premiered the film to a sold-out crowd on a Friday night at London Piccadilly Circus, and we're pinching ourselves. Fuck, how do we get here type of thing. Then we released the film online October 15th of 2012, so barely 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that really opened the door to my next chapter of my life. I don't think I'm any different. The difference is the past 3 years, though, a lot more people know what I'm doing, and I've traveled a lot more throughout the world, done a lot of stuff with Porsche, and just connected with auto enthusiasts all over the world. But it happened organically. It wasn't planned.
Now,
it wasn't structured.
You don't build cars for people, so how do you make money with Urban Outlaw?
Well, I describe it as a hobby. I collect for myself. I don't build customer cars because to me it's like if you said, hey, I love that car you've got, 277, can you make me one? But all of a sudden I got to control your expectations, your taste level, your time frame, and then it becomes a job. And I've seen a lot of independent shops have customer cars there for 5 times longer than they ever thought because people change their mind, run out of money or whatever. So it's always been a passion hobby for me. We have the little sideline of swag, which is Urban Outlaw, basically baseball caps and T-shirts. But, we don't actively push that. For me, it's not really about the money. The money will come, and it is coming, because what happened after Urban Outlaw is I've probably done 50 videos, been on the Leno Garage show 3 times, done Top Gear, Fifth Gear, all these podcasts, and every European country's got a TV show that's sort of like Top Gear. So I've been able to do a lot of commercial TV stuff, my own videos, and built a following of car culture enthusiasts.
Absolutely.
To the point where it's gone beyond being Porsche-centric. We talked a little bit about my background of having the Super B and the 65 Mustang. So even though I'm a Porsche guy at heart, that is my drug, that's my religion, I'm a car enthusiast at heart.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what you drive, I always say that. We all share that same passion of the thrill, the chase, the build, and ultimately the drive. So through coverage, through people like Leno's Garage Show, you get open to a wider audience. Adam Carolla, these guys are not Porsche-centric, it's car enthusiast-centric. And then I started doing a lot of stuff with the automotive blog Speed Hunters, which is also very diverse, but mostly, in a sense, centered more around the sport import tuner, Ken Block, drift type scene. So my following grew beyond the Porsche world. And I always said it was like laying the foundation of building this following. I didn't really know what was coming next, but I really enjoy making these videos. I've made a Desert Outlaw, El Mirage.
They're great.
I've done London Outlaw, Tokyo Out. I got flown out to Tokyo.
Yeah.
I did Motor City Outlaw in Detroit. And then I started doing things with Porsche. They invited me to Essen and Old Timer GP and Goodwood Revival. Then you start getting brought out to appear at openings of dealerships.
Wow.
And then last year, the past couple of years have been pretty incredible. I mean, 3 years ago, I went to SEMA, which is the big aftermarket specialty automotive show in Vegas. Well, this story is great. Urban Outlaw came out 2012, so came out in October. SEMA's in November, so 3 weeks after Urban Outlaw 3 years ago, I sneak into SEMA on someone else's pass for a day. Well, fast forward last year or the year before, I'm now with Mobile One, 2 cars in their booth. Last year, I'm with Pirelli at the LA Auto Show. So last year was, on one sense, a really great year for me because I did a lot of stuff with Porsche-centric big brands, Mobile One, Pirelli. I had the Schuko Toy Company build models in my car. I'm doing stuff with Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
I got a series of 5 toys coming out with Hot Wheels. And then I got this opportunity to be in the new Need for Speed video game, along with Ken Block. So talk about diversity right there.
Yeah,
so this thing it's like a snowball that keeps rolling and getting bigger.
Yeah, it's like me, rock and roll, then I'm selling motorcycles, then all of a sudden I'm doing comedy. It's just your life, you don't plan anything, you just go.
Yeah, I mean, having the ability to be in a position where I could afford time to go do these things. Now, to wrap up the little bow on the scenario of, if I was still doing Sirius with a dozen employees, I would never have been able to do 12 events last year.
Totally.
Go to Europe 5 times. So that door closed. We didn't know what was coming after it. But what came after it was Urban Outlaw, which is what I describe as the becoming of the next chapter of my life, to the point where I'm working on a TV show right now with the History Channel.
Wow.
I've got a book deal that looks like it's going to go through in England. We've got 3 offers on the table. So all this stuff has just evolved from being passionate about cars, saying yes a lot more than I say no, and sort of relating to a lot of other people out there that share that same passion. I left school at 15. I didn't come from a wealthy background. It's, I fought for what I've got to this point. I think people like that connection because we all share that same dream.
Yeah. It's self-made,
Yeah,
self-made.
And people like that story because
they love it.
They prefer that to the kid born with a silver spoon in his mouth. The rich kid story is not, it's not relatable.
I think that's the only thing that gets me angry is trust fund kids. I don't know why I can't shake it, but rich kids that don't have to work and they'll sit and they're acting and they're, they got a car. Whatever. I'm just like,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to relate to that, but I always say stay motivated, stay passionate, stay dedicated, and shit comes your way. I mean, it just does if you don't give up. I mean, I'm still doing 12-hour days, but I'm doing 12-hour days of stuff that to me is not work. It's like this. I mean, I've done a lot of these podcasts. People say, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it's a new learning experience for me to learn about you, what you're about, and also for people to probably hear my story who haven't heard it before. I mean,
totally.
There's so much goodness out there. I mean,
well, I wanted to have you on because, of course, I love cars, but I love rock and roll, and I saw right away that you loved rock and roll, and you were talking about leather pants on your film there, and I was like, fuck, I'm obsessed with leather pants. I always loved them, and the way you were talking about how you made them look old, and I used to do that too. I'd kind of sandpaper that weird shiny finish off them, and then zap them with mad mink oil and everything, and roll them in dirt.
Well, let me show you this. This is sort of following up from that. I did a custom Momo steering wheel. I'll show you this, where literally I like things to be vintage. You see these vintage steering wheels.
I love patina.
Yeah, patina's a big word,
man.
Right. So I got approached by Momo. I did a collaboration with them where it's a brand new wheel, but it looks vintage like this because I had them hand distressed to the brand new leather, so it didn't look like a brand new wheel.
I love that.
But to circle back around, and yet another great LA story. 2 months ago, I'm at the LA Auto Show with Pirelli, debuting my new car.
I was there. I saw your car. It was great. Me and my boy Byron Bowers, he's also a comedian.
Right.
We're huge fans of yours, and we love Porsche. So, boom, we go right to your car.
Well, I appreciate that support. Well, it's funny. I ended up lucking out there as well. Luck only gets you so far, but stars aligned. We had a great location with Pirelli.
It's great.
And a lot of people came by. But one of the real memorable moments from that show was I ended up meeting Billy Duffy from the Cult.
I love him.
Who'd come by. Somehow he said he'd just read about me on a plane, so I didn't really question it because you never know where these stories go. I strike up a conversation with him. This is Friday afternoon at the LA Auto Show around 6 o'clock. I was a big Cult fan as a kid. I remember when they came out, 84.
The Electric record.
Yeah.
A lot of people love the Love record.
I remember Southern Death Cult before when they were a little bit more sort of punky gothy.
Yeah, so total goth.
And it was the one band I'd never seen, or one of the bands I'd never seen that I always wanted to see. And he was such a cool, down-to-earth guy. Invites me to the show on the Saturday night at the Palladium next night, VIP pass. And I was saying earlier on how I hadn't gone out quite recently. Probably, I don't remember the last band I saw other than the Cult and Shooter Jennings. So it had been a long time since I'd gone out. But they're playing the Palladium. They go on about, 11 o'clock Saturday night. And I stayed fucking all the way through that show. And encore, they had Jerry Cantrell come out, do a song with them, and then it gets better. They had Jonesy come out. Steve Jones comes out. They do songs together, and to me, it was just another one of those great LA moments of
I love that
serendipity shit happening. Turned out Billy Duffy's a real cool, down-to-earth guy. We're now becoming, sort of friends a little bit, and that stuff doesn't happen, I think, in other cities.
No,
but it happens all the time in LA.
All the time, man. I moved here and I didn't even know those guys, all those guys that, Steve Jones. I would ride motorcycles with him. He's done my podcast. Billy Duffy invited me to jam one time in this cover band thing at their rehearsal and with Cantrell. You just slowly start to meet guys, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, these are the guys. I see them all the time. It's just incredible. That's what I love about it, And they're all creative people, and you're around creative people. It just feels great.
Yeah, you get in that circle, and it just spins. It's like being in the blender. I mean, I've met people here that I grew up as a kid sort of idolized, and all of a sudden, Eddie Van Halen's playing my guitar.
Insane.
You meet these, as a teenager, I used to go backstage. That was how I got all this stuff signed, and it was always like a disconnect because you're like 500 people there. Hey, man, great show. So 5-second conversation, you move on. But we got Van Halen in the loft all day long, and of course, they're car guys. They're looking at me. I'm rock and roll. They don't know who I am, but they're slightly intrigued. Who's this guy? What's his story? We're in his space. So all of a sudden, it's more of a level playing field.
Totally.
If anything, maybe they're slightly off balance because we don't know this guy, but, we're kind of clicking here.
Yeah. So and this guy represents a little bit of freedom.
Yeah. So, common bond threads just keep weaving through life for me.
Me too.
And I
me
think,
too, man.
It's like a tapestry that just keeps evolving.
Yep.
And I'm always open to opportunity, which is why when you got a hold of me, yes is what I say. It may take me time to get back to, because as you see,
of course,
I'm a one-man army. You don't see, there's no PR
servants or anything.
No, it's me and an iPhone. People say to me, how'd you get all that shit done? You must have an agent or PR person. Well, look around. There's no one here.
I'm the same way. I don't have anything. It's just straight. You don't sleep. It's just nonstop hustle.
Yeah. But,
let me get into, I know you got to get out of here, but I really want to get into one thing on the cars. When I was in the 5th grade, my teacher, Miss Foster, had a root beer brown 70s Targa. And my best friend at the time was named, it was actually 6th grade, Jimmy Barchi, handed me a Road and Track magazine. It had a yellow Dino Ferrari on the cover. And those two moments were my complete love of European autos and autos in general, My point is, look at that. There you go. Road and Track. You're on the cover, dude.
I've been on the cover of the Rolling Stone, back to Almost Famous.
Wow, man. You're on the cover.
But anyway, Targa, root brown Targa,
root beer brown Targa. My point is, I absolutely love Porsche, and I've yet to own one Porsche Porsche, you know.
Tomato, tomato, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those purists that's going to go, dude, it's Porsche. You know? Porsche, it's a car, it's the same.
Then later on in my life, I skated at the skating rink every day of my life. The owner had a 914. I remember always broke down and shit. And then one of my best friends, Casey from Amen, if you know that band, he bought a 928. And so all different eras
Varieties,
of my life,
flavors,
I've
right?
been in the passenger seats of these cars.
You got to get in the driver's seat, man.
That's right. So that's why I want to talk to you. So what Porsche can you get into now? Because you just bought a 928, and I'm one of the very few people that love the 928. I love it, and I just want to get into some of this stuff before we cut out. We've got air-cooled cars, we've got water-cooled cars, and we've got different bodies and everything. What do you think right now is a great car to get into? Because I did watch that Growler video of the 964.
Oh, yeah, that's my buddy Alex. Yeah,
right.
Bermudas.
Those look to be about 30 grand, but a 928, I saw a mint one on eBay a couple days ago for 18 grand with 22,000 miles. You got a green one you just bought, 79. How do I know what to buy now and what years?
Well, I fell in love with Porsche as a 10-year-old. That story, I don't need to tell.
I know it already. You
that
wrote
story.
to Porsche. You wanted to work there.
So that, to me, 40 years later, actually being affiliated with Porsche in some capacity is dream come true. Having wrote to them 39 years ago as a kid.
It's like me doing comedy.
Yeah, saying I want to design for Porsche. Now I'm building my own interpretation of my dream Porsche. I'm known for being an early air-cooled guy. The 911 was formed in 1964, same year as the Ford Mustang. Let me talk a little bit about DNA of Ford and Porsche. The only other sports car that's been around longer than those two is the Corvette. Came out 10 years prior in 54.
My dad had a 65.
So I love Corvettes, even though I've never owned one. I have owned a 65 Fastback GT350R replica Mustang. So even though the two cars couldn't be different, when you think of Ford, you think of Mustang. When you think of Porsche, you think of 911. Both cars came out in 1964. Both cars, even though they couldn't be more different, have fanatical followers who love to customize. And the factory itself, Ford makes lots of varieties of the Mustang. Porsche makes lots of varieties of the 911.
There's like 22 of them right now, right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I can't fucking keep up, man. It's like, with me, I just go in and go, what's the best one?
Yeah. Well, there never is just one best one. It depends what you're doing. There's magazines out there. But to sort of try and put this into perspective, I've owned over 5911s from the early years, from 64 essentially through 76, the first 12 years. And that really is where my passion lies. But I'm a goal-orientated collector, so I had to have one of each year from 64 through 73.
Where do you find them?
All over. I mean, literally, you look everywhere you're looking. Sports Car Trader, eBay.
Yeah. And what is your what is the rules of it if you're buying?
Real simple.
No rust?
Expect the worst, hope for the best. Rust doesn't matter. All those Porsche didn't fully galvanize their bodies until 76. So everything prior to then, even this California rust-free car scenario does not exist. You're buying a Porsche from the 60s and it's been in Malibu 40, 50 years.
Done.
It's
out there.
done.
That's done out there.
So to me, I look all over. I would say 70% of the cars I own were never advertised for sale. It's word of mouth. It teaches you patience. You got to feel these people out. If you'd said to me 2 years ago I'd be buying not one but two cars from Australia, I'd say you're crazy.
Wow.
But that 75 right-hand drive turbo that I told you, they only made 17 of them, that was a UK car that came from Australia. It'd been in Australia for 30 years. That 924 Carrera GT was a European car that went to Japan and then came to Australia, and I brought it out of Australia. So as a collector, and I will answer your question, but as a collector, my new goal now has evolved to having one of every 911 model ever built. So I've gone through the early years. I'm up to what is the 964, which was the first big body style change. From 1964 all the way up to 1994, there's a lot of interchangeability on the body style. You can drop a 3-liter or a 3.6 motor into a car that originally would have had a 2-liter.
And the difference is the bodies, right? Like flared fenders, whale tails versus just the
narrow body, yeah. But it's an evolution of, Porsche, the original car was 2-liter, pretty delicate. They end up getting built out to 3.8 and now 4.0 as performance increases. Obviously, you need, more traction and stuff like that. But my new goal is one of every model. So next one will be 993. And then that ends air-cooled in 1999. And then here's the big north-south debate, the East Coast, West Coast of you're air-cooled or you're water-cooled.
Of course.
A lot of the purists are air-cooled. Water-cooled is not a true Porsche.
Of course.
But for me, I'm such a Porsche fan, I'm all about variety. So air-cooled or water-cooled, it doesn't matter.
Plus, you can only go so far with the air-cooled, then you're done.
Yeah, I mean, if you want power, ultimately, there's a lot of ways to do it, but water-cooled is not a bad thing. But my new goal really is to have one of everything Porsche has ever made in a sports car. So I showed you around the warehouse. So the new goal is front-engine water-cooled, which is 924, 928, 944, and 968. So I've already got the 924 and the 928 that you see. That 924 that I showed you, the Pasha checkerboard interior, that was a $4,500 car. Bought it on eBay 2 years ago. Buy it now as you see.
Now, let me ask you a question before we go any further on it. 924, my buddy had one, and he said, Byron had one, and it smelled like gas. All the gas tanks cracked, he said, on all of them. What is that? Is there a fix for that?
Yeah, new gas tank's probably the fix for that.
But then it just cracks again, he said, because the way it was hard mounted or something.
Yeah, I mean, that is what, a lot of these cars do have issues.
Yeah.
Porsche's about to celebrate the 40th anniversary of what's known as transaxle cars. The 924 debuted in 1976 as a 77-year model. That $4,500 Immaculate Turbo that I bought was the least expensive Porsche I've ever bought.
Wow,
so
$4,500?
Yeah, 2 years ago. And I'll circle back around to that. But I just want to finish my thread of the new goal is front engine, mid engine, rear engine. So you saw I had two 914s as well, air and water cooled. To me, doesn't matter. It's all about variety. So the long answer to your question of what is the best Porsche to buy today, there's a Porsche for every budget. If you want to get behind the wheel of a Porsche, not a 911, but the wheel of a Porsche, 5 to 10 grand gets you into a 924, a 944, a 928, or a more modern car, a Boxer. So that's the way for less than 10 grand to get behind the seat of a Porsche.
What are you looking out for on the 928? Because they're all over the board on the prices.
Yeah, I've got a $3,000 parts car across the road, so they essentially start at like $1,000 and go up depending on what the model is. I mean,
what's the best 928?
Well, the best one for me is the one I just bought because I like to buy things at the beginning.
79.
78.
78.
The 64 911, birth on the 911. 75 turbo. You think of Porsche, you think of turbo, it's the iconic car. So my goal was 75 turbo. I ended up getting the first 3 years, 75, 6, and 7. So moving into 928, I got to get the first year. So I got first year Euro sunroof delete manual because a lot of those cars were automatic.
Yeah, that's right. It's rare to find a manual on the 928.
Yeah, so I don't buy cars that are going to appreciate. I buy cars that I like. But it seems that I've got lucky and I've always been ahead of the trend. I was buying early short wheelbase cars when you could pick them up all day long for under 10 grand. To put it in perspective, a lot of those cars now are maybe 100 grand.
Wow.
Same with early turbos. These cars doubled and then tripled. So the only model that hasn't really gone up are the 914, as you described, your buddy had one, was always an unloved car.
No. Somebody else, did Volkswagen make that?
Yeah. Well, it was a collaboration with VW and Porsche.
Now,
the 924
there is
was
a six-cylinder of the 14, though, that's a fortune, right?
914.6, yeah. It's got the 72 2.2-liter T motor in it. And they're now, 40 grand gets you a dog.
Wow.
They're going up 60, 80 grand. So here's the point. You just hit the nail on the head. The 914 was an unloved car, but you realize the 914.6 is now becoming a desirable car. The only cars that haven't really gone up are what's known as the transaxle cars, 924, 928, 944, 968. But as I just said, Porsche is celebrating the 40th anniversary of those cars this year.
Right.
There will no longer be 5 grand cars.
No.
So you get a lot of performance and a lot of bang for the buck. And that 928, I've been driving it all weekend. I told you I was in the snow in the Crest Saturday and I'm at the Rock Store Malibu Sunday.
Is it fast?
It's pretty fast. It's one of the... It's an early car, so it's, V8, 16 valve, kind of torquey compared to what I'm used to, but not super throttle responsive. So it's one of those that is not a point and squirt car. It's certainly not a great car in the twisty canyons, but it's a great car to drive to San Francisco in. But
right.
For me, it's not always about how quick you get from A to B. It's about the journey and how you feel when you go down the road. Now, that car to me is like stepping back to 1978. It's a time warp capsule. And you don't really see a lot of them on the road anymore.
Nope.
So to me, it's experience, it's variety, it's smiles per mile, it's memorable moments.
What's the best 928 to get? Because I see these ones, they're like the 928 GT, the
928 GTS is perhaps the best one because it's the last of the bunch. You know, it's the end of the era in 1994. That production run went 16 years from 78 to 94. But for me, the best one's always the first.
Right.
Might not be the best performance, but it's the purest, and it's the beginning of everything. So as a collector, I always like to start at the beginning, not the end,
right,
and work through. And as you can see, I'm one of those guys that one's never enough. I got two 924s, I got two 914s.
Yeah.
I actually have two 928s.
You got two 928? Oh, one's a parts car?
Parts car that I
Right.
bought for $3,000.
We've got the 911, but what is a 964? It's a 911, but it's just called something else?
It's the evolution. I mean, they're all 911s, but it's the body style. You know, the 964 came out in 89 as a 90 series model. And even though it sort of looks like it's from 64 through 73, they're known as what's called long hoods. In 74, crashing impact DOT safety standards necessitated the bumpers coming up to a different ride height. So that shortened the hood. So those cars become known as short hood cars. So from 74 to 94, you've got the 911, which goes to 78. Then you got the SC from 78 to 83. Then you got the 3.2 Carrera from 83 to 89. And then from 89 to 95, you got the 964. Just the evolution. They're all
Right.
essentially visually quite similar.
Yeah.
But the 964 was the first car in 25 years that went from torsion bar suspension to coilover suspension. So even though visually on the outside it looks kind of similar, minus the big bumpers and rockers, the underpinnings, a whole different body shell, first car running coilovers. By now the motor's gone from 2-liter all the way up to 3.6-liter. So it's the evolution.
Right.
What follows that is the 993, last of the air-cooled. So 993 is the internal designation of that model. Most people call it a 911, but it's a 993 model number.
Got ya.
What comes after that is the first water-cooled, entering the modern era. No more air-cooled. That's the 996. And then the evolution is 997 up to the current 991, which is just been debuted Generation 2, the first facelift of the 991, which came out in 2011. So I don't own any any water-cooled cars. I've driven them all. I've driven everything from a Gammon Coupe all the way up to a 918. You know, I've been fortunate enough to drive what I call OPP, other people's Porsches.
Yeah.
So it's great to get behind the wheel of exotic stuff such as Carrera GTs and 959s and 918s. And that's one of the great things about Porsche people. We all share that same passion, and I've been lucky to be able to drive a lot of other people's cars that I've experienced but don't necessarily need to own. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's what's great about Porsche people, and ultimately that's what's great about all automotive car culture people. If you're a true enthusiast, doesn't matter what you drive, it's just we share that same spirit of enjoying the journey, the open road, the adventure.
So if somebody wants to buy an air-cooled, would you say get into the, right now, and you don't have a lot of money, you get into the 964?
Well, 964 has gone up pretty quick. My advice, because I tell this all the time, you want an air-cooled 911, you're going to have to spend a minimum of 30 grand.
Right.
And you want to start looking with a SC, 78 through 83, or a 3.2 Carrera, which is 83 to 89. If you're lucky, you may sort of stumble upon a 964 in the mid-30s to low 40s.
Like that Growler one?
Yeah, that's my buddy Alex. I've known him for years. I actually introduced him to the POC, and he turned out to be a great talent behind the wheel. And he started running Spec Box Room, was the POC club champion last year. So cool guy, cool car, talented guy behind the wheel.
Are you going to keep the 928 stock?
Yeah, I'm keeping, well, yes and no. I mean, I'm not going to outlaw it as people seem to think I am. I'm going to lower it. I'm going to stiffen it up. I'm going to put it on some stickier rubber, but visually it will look real similar, just lowered and tightened up a little bit.
I love the gold they made in that.
Oh, yeah. If I could get like that bronze metallic gold with that sort of tan checkerboard interior.
Oh, it's so fun.
That would be the ticket right there. You know, and those are the cars that were really unloved until probably a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think now that shape, you know, it was so far ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the Panamera and you see part of the 928 in the Panamera. You look inside the 928 cockpit, that center console. That's in all the new 991s. It's in the Caymans. It's in the Boxsters. So even though that car was on the drawing board 40 years ago and came out 38 years ago, that DNA is still continuing today because you see it in the new 991. You see it in the Panamera. You see those design elements. Porsche was kind of too early on that car. They were ahead of the
I
time.
loved that car when it came out. I thought it was fantastic. To me, it just looked like it just was 80s cocaine, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's risky business. It's no man's land. It's futuristic. It's Al Pacino in Scarface drove a 928.
Absolutely.
So there's your cocaine reference right there. I mean,
that's exactly how I fell in love with it.
That we talked earlier on about rock and roll and music and movies and cars, and they all go together.
They do.
Because you can talk about a film, I don't care what it is. I mean, I've been on my quest recently about the 6th Street Bridge, the historic, iconic LA landmark built in 1932, going to be torn down this year. That had always been my sort of anchor. Whenever I traveled, I always came back and had to drive that bridge. And it was great that it's literally 200 yards from where we stood, and I've done 135 miles an hour on that bridge. You can do 100 any time of the day. So the point to my story is you think about everything that's been shot on that bridge or in that bridge or in that river. Look at Grease. Car chase scene in the LA River with the 6th Street Bridge in the background.
Drive,
Gone in 60 Seconds, Batman, Terminator. You know, every single car commercial is shot on that. So back to the connection, LA Story, movies. You know, I made a video, one of my favorite ones called Midnight Rambler. I'm just ripping around downtown in my favorite car, number 277, and it ends on the bridge with me driving into the distance. So what does this mean? Well, for me, it means like I'm in my own movie. That's what it means. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. Slap on the GoPro and go do it. I mean,
thanks for your time, man.
I know, mate. It's been awesome, man.
Are you going to come to the party?
Yeah, when is it, next week?
Yeah, Tuesday. You got to come.
I'll be there.
All kinds of great rock stars. And
as you say in LA, stick me on the list.
I got you. I got you, dude. Are you kidding me? And let's see, website and Instagram.
Yeah, Magnus Walker. You know, just you'll find me.
Yeah.
MagnusWalker911.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. It's not all Porsche stuff. I'm posting photos of fish and chips and roast beef and Yorkshire pud. And,
it's great.
You know, I'm a Porsche guy at heart, but I'm an enthusiast and a lover of life and making the most out of every moment. So, yeah, if you want to join the ride, step on board, drink the Kool-Aid, Magnus Walker 911.
Thank you so much. And don't forget, where were you in 79 when the band began to burst? It's so great.
For all you guys out there, go look up Saxon, one of my favorite bands as a kid. And like I say, rock on, get out and drive, pedal to the metal.
Thank you, man. There you guys go, man. Thanks for tuning in. Another episode of Let There Be Talk.